lights were off in the top floor office of Meridian Architecture when Olivia Chen pushed her cleaning cart down the hallway at 11 o'clock at night. She had been working for Clean Pro Services for 3 years, assigned to this particular building for the last 18 months, and she knew the patterns. The executive offices were always empty by this hour. The ambitious young architects and senior partners, having long since gone home to their families or out to networking dinners, which was why Olivia stopped in confusion when she saw a sliver of light coming from beneath the door of the corner office, the largest one with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Someone was still here. She knocked softly. "Cleaning service. I can come back later if you need more time." No response. But she could hear something through the door, sound that made her pause. Crying. Someone was crying in there, the kind of broken sobbing that came from a place of absolute despair. Olivia hesitated. Her job was to clean offices, not to get involved in people's personal crises. She was supposed to be invisible, the person who made sure everything was spotless and organized without ever being noticed. Getting involved with clients was explicitly against company policy, but that sound, Toll's wrenching sobs, pulled at something in her. She knew what it was like to cry alone in the dark, to feel like the weight of the world was crushing you, and there was no one who cared enough to check if you were okay. Olivia opened the door slowly. "Hello? Are you all right? Do you need me to call someone?" The office was dark except for the glow of the city lights through the windows. In the dim light, she could make out a figure sitting on the floor, back against the wall, head in hands. Papers were scattered everywhere, along with what looked like architectural models in various states of destruction. A half-empty bottle of expensive whiskey sat on the desk. "Please leave," the man said without looking up, his voice hoarse from crying. "Just leave and pretend you didn't see this. Are you hurt? Should I call security or a doctor?" "I'm fine. Or I will be. Just go." But Olivia didn't go. Something about the brokenness in his voice, the absolute defeat, made her set down her cleaning supplies and step further into the office. As her eyes adjusted to the dim light, she could see the man more clearly. He was probably in his mid-30s, wearing an expensive white shirt with the sleeves rolled up in dress pants, though both were wrinkled and disheveled. Dark hair, strong features, the kind of man who probably turned heads when he walked into a room. But right now, he looked destroyed. "My name is Olivia," she said gently. "I'm with the cleaning service. I know you don't know me, but sometimes it helps to talk to a stranger. Whatever happened, it might feel less overwhelming if you say it out loud." The man finally looked up at her, and in the city lights filtering through the windows, Olivia could see his face was wet with tears. "You don't understand. I just destroyed everything. Everything my family built. Everything I was supposed to protect. It's all gone. I'm sure it's not as bad as you think. I had to fire 80 people today." The man interrupted, his voice rising with emotion. 80 people who trusted me, who worked for my family's company for years, some of them for decades. I looked them in the eyes and told them we couldn't afford to keep them anymore. I watched people cry, watched them beg for their jobs, watched them try to figure out how they were going to feed their families. And do you know what the worst part is? What? It's my fault. All of it. My father built this firm over 40 years. He hired the best architects, created a culture of excellence and integrity. And then I took over 2 years ago when he retired, and I destroyed it. I made risky expansion decisions, took on projects that were too ambitious, didn't pay attention to cash flow. And now the company is hemorrhaging money, and the only way to avoid complete bankruptcy is to cut staff to the bone. I ruined 80 families' lives today because I was too arrogant to admit I didn't know what I was doing. Olivia sat down on the floor across from him, unmindful of her uniform. Is the company closed now? Is it over? Not yet. If we can survive the next 6 months with a reduced staff, if we can complete the few projects we still have, we might be able to rebuild slowly. But it will never be what it was. The reputation is damaged. My father's legacy is destroyed. And 80 good people are unemployed because of my failures. Were you trying to fail? Olivia asked quietly. Of course not. I was trying to grow the company, to take it to the next level. Then you didn't fail through malice or negligence. You failed through ambition and inexperience. Those are very different things. Tell that to the people I fired. Tell them their unemployment is okay because I had good intentions. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying there's a difference between someone who destroys things carelessly and someone who tried their best and made mistakes. You're clearly devastated by what happened. That means you care. Someone who didn't care wouldn't be sitting here crying in the dark. The man wiped his face with the back of his hand. Why are you being kind to me? You don't even know me, because you're a person in pain, and I know what that feels like. And because sometimes the hardest thing we can do is forgive ourselves for being human and making mistakes. They sat in silence for a moment before the man spoke again. I don't even know how I'm going to face my father. He trusted me with his life's work, and I nearly destroyed it in 2 years. He's going to be so disappointed. Have you told him what happened? Not yet. He's been traveling with my mother, trying to enjoy retirement. They come back next week, and I'll have to tell them then. I keep imagining the look on his face when I explain how I failed. Olivia thought about her own father, who had worked in a factory for 30 years before dying of a heart attack when she was 16. She thought about how proud he had been of her, even when she made mistakes, even when she disappointed him with her choices. Can I tell you something my father used to say? He was a simple man, just a factory worker, but he was wise in his own way. He used to tell me that the measure of a person wasn't whether they fell down, but whether they got back up, and more importantly, what they learned from the fall. You fell down today, hard, but you're still here, which means you can get back up. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I'm strong enough to face everyone tomorrow, to lead what's left of the company, to rebuild from this. You don't have to figure it all out tonight. Tonight, you just have to survive. Tomorrow, you get up and take the next step, and then the next one after that. That's all any of us can do. The man looked at Olivia with something like wonder. Who are you? You're not just a cleaning person, are you? Olivia smiled sadly. I'm exactly a cleaning person. I clean offices at night and take classes during the day. I'm working on my bachelor's degree in business administration, trying to build a better life for myself. It's taken forever because I can only afford 1 or 2 classes a semester, but I'm getting there. Why business administration? Because I want to understand how things work, how companies succeed or fail, how decisions at the top affect people at the bottom. My father worked for a company that closed suddenly when I was a teenager. 300 people lost their jobs overnight because the executives had been embezzling money. My father died of a heart attack 6 months later from the stress of unemployment. I want to understand that world so I can maybe prevent it from happening to other families. The man was quiet for a long time. I'm sorry about your father, and I'm sorry if I was one of the people who caused that kind of stress to families today. That's what I can't stop thinking about. What if someone has a heart attack because I fired them? What if someone loses their home? What if marriages fall apart from the financial strain? Those are valid concerns. But beating yourself up doesn't help anyone. What helps is figuring out how to support the people you had to let go, providing good references, helping them network, extending benefits as long as possible, and then running what's left of your company so well that maybe you can hire some of them back someday. You make it sound almost manageable. It's not manageable. It's overwhelming and terrible, but it's survivable. I promise you, it's survivable. Olivia stood up, her knees stiff from sitting on the floor. I should let you get home. Do you have someone waiting for you? Someone who can be with you tonight? No, I'm divorced. No kids. My ex-wife left 2 years ago, right around the time I took over the company. She said I was too consumed with work, that there was no room for her in my life. She was probably right. Then call a friend. Don't be alone tonight. I don't really have friends anymore, just colleagues and business associates. When you run a company, those relationships get complicated. Olivia made a decision that went against every professional boundary she had. Then I'm going to make sure you get home safely. You've been drinking, you're emotionally devastated, and you shouldn't be alone right now. I'll call you a car service and make sure you get into it. Then I'll finish cleaning this office so you don't have to see this mess tomorrow. You don't have to do that. I know, but I'm going to anyway. Olivia called a car service and waited with the man until it arrived. He didn't resist, seemed almost grateful to have someone making decisions for him in his exhausted state. Before he left, he turned to her one more time. Thank you. I don't even know your last name, and you showed me more compassion tonight than anyone has in months. I won't forget this. My name is Olivia Chen, and you're going to be okay. I don't know how yet, but you will be. After he left, Olivia spent 2 hours cleaning the office, carefully picking up the scattered papers and organizing them, gently restoring the architectural models as best she could, making everything neat and professional for the morning. She didn't know who the man was, hadn't asked his name, but she hoped he would walk into a clean office and feel slightly less overwhelmed. The next morning, Olivia received a call from her supervisor at Clean Pro Services. Olivia, I need to talk to you about your assignment at the Meridian building. Is something wrong? Did I not clean properly? No, the cleaning is fine, but we're losing the contract. The client is making severe budget cuts, and they're bringing cleaning in-house to save money. Your assignment ends today. I'm sorry. Olivia felt her stomach drop. The Meridian contract was her most consistent job, the one that paid slightly better than the others. Losing it meant losing a significant portion of her income, which meant dropping classes again, which meant delaying her degree even further. I understand, Olivia said, trying to keep her voice steady. Thank you for letting me know. She hung up and allowed herself exactly 3 minutes to feel devastated. Then she dried her eyes, pulled herself together, and started looking for additional work. This was the life of someone like her, constantly one setback away from crisis, always hustling to stay afloat. She didn't connect the dots, didn't realize that the building where she had worked was owned by Meridian Architecture, that the man she had found crying in the dark was probably the CEO, who had just decided to cut their cleaning contract as part of his cost-saving measures. 2 weeks passed. Olivia found some additional cleaning jobs, but none paid as well as the Meridian contract. She had to drop one of her classes because she couldn't afford the tuition and textbooks. The setback was discouraging, but she kept moving forward because that was what she did. She survived. She was cleaning an office building lobby late one Thursday night when someone approached her. She looked up to see a man in an expensive suit, and with a shock, she recognized him. It was the man from the dark office, but he looked completely different. Composed, professional, confident. No sign of the broken person she had found crying on the floor. Olivia Chen, he said, double quotes. Yes. Do I know you? We met briefly 2 weeks ago. I'm Ethan Drake. I'm the CEO of Meridian Architecture. You found me in my office having the worst night of my life, and you stayed and talked me through it. Olivia felt her face flush. This was her former client, the head of the company that had cut their cleaning contract. Mr. Drake, I hope you're doing better. I am, actually. Thanks in large part to you. I've been trying to track you down for 2 weeks. Your supervisor at CleanPro finally told me where I might find you. Olivia, I need to talk to you about something important. Do you have a few minutes? I'm working. I can't really take a break. Then I'll talk while you work. Olivia, I didn't know who you were that night. I didn't know you were one of our contracted cleaning staff. When I made the decision to cut our cleaning contract to save money, I didn't realize I was indirectly firing you. And then when I found out, I felt even worse than I already did. It's fine. You had to make tough decisions. I understand. No, it's not fine. You showed me extraordinary kindness on the worst night of my life, and I inadvertently repaid you by taking away your income. That's not acceptable to me, which is why I have a proposal. Olivia stopped cleaning and looked at him fully. What kind of proposal? I need someone I can trust working with me at Meridian. Someone with integrity and intelligence. Someone who sees people as humans rather than just numbers on a spreadsheet. That night, you told me you're studying business administration. I want to offer you a position at Meridian as my executive assistant. It's real work with real responsibilities. The pay is significantly more than cleaning jobs, and it comes with tuition reimbursement, so you can finish your degree without having to work multiple jobs. Olivia stared at him in disbelief. You're offering me a job? A real job? Yes, but I need to be very clear about something. This isn't charity. I'm offering you this position because I believe you'd be exceptional at it. You have perspective and compassion and intelligence. Those are qualities I desperately need as I try to rebuild what I damaged. But if you think I'm doing this out of guilt or pity, I understand if you'd rather decline. Why would you trust me in such an important position? You barely know me. You sat with a stranger who was falling apart and showed him compassion when you could have just walked away. You cleaned up his mess, literally and figuratively, without being asked. You gave him wisdom and hope when he had none. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. The rest, the skills and knowledge, those can be developed. But integrity, that's inherent. Olivia thought about her current situation. 3 part-time cleaning jobs, barely enough income to cover rent and food. Classes she couldn't afford, a degree that seemed to get further away every semester. And here was an opportunity to change all of that, offered by someone who seemed genuine in his respect for her. If I accept, I need you to understand something. I won't be a yes person. If I think you're making a mistake, I'll tell you. If I see something that doesn't align with what's best for the company or the people in it, I'll speak up. Ethan smiled, the first genuine smile she had seen from him. That's exactly what I need. Too many people around me just agree with everything I say because I'm the CEO. I need someone who will challenge me, who will see things I'm missing. That's you, Olivia. Then yes, I accept. Starting at Meridian Architecture was overwhelming. Olivia went from cleaning offices to sitting in executive meetings, from being invisible to being constantly consulted on decisions. She had to learn quickly, absorbing information about architecture, business operations, client relations, and company culture. But she also brought something valuable that Ethan and many of the senior architects lacked. She understood what life was like for the people at the bottom of the economic ladder. She saw inefficiencies and inequities they had stopped noticing, and she wasn't afraid to point them out. Why do we pay the front desk staff so little? Olivia asked during her second week. They're the first point of contact for clients. They shape the entire impression of the firm, but we're paying them barely above minimum wage. That guarantees high turnover and low morale. We're trying to control costs, one of the senior partners explained. False economy, Olivia countered. You spend more recruiting and training new people than you'd spend just paying the existing staff a living wage. Plus, experienced reception staff know the company, know the clients, and can handle problems before they escalate. That has value. Keithan looked thoughtful. She's right. Let's review our compensation structure, starting with the positions we've been undervaluing. Over the following months, Olivia became instrumental in Meridian's recovery. She developed better systems for project management, improved communication between departments, and most importantly, helped Ethan see the human impact of every decision. Before you cut another position, before you make any major change, ask yourself what it means for real people. Olivia would remind him. Numbers on a spreadsheet represent families, mortgages, children's education, retirement dreams. That doesn't mean you never make hard choices. It just means you make them thoughtfully and compassionately. Ethan found himself relying on Olivia more and more, not just for her work skills, but for her perspective. They would have long conversations about business philosophy, about the balance between profit and responsibility. about what success really meant. I spent 2 years chasing growth for growth's sake, Ethan admitted one evening as they worked late, reviewing a project proposal. I wanted to prove I was as good as my father, that I could take what he built and make it even bigger. But I forgot to think about whether bigger was actually better. Your father spent 40 years building slowly and sustainably, Olivia said. You tried to compress that into 2 years. The math doesn't work. Growth is good, but only if the foundation is strong enough to support it. How did you get so wise? You're what, 25? 26? And I'm not wise. I'm just observant. When you grow up poor, when you watch your father die from the stress of unemployment, you learn to pay attention to how systems work and who they serve. The wealthy and powerful can afford to make mistakes and recover. Everyone else is one disaster away from catastrophe. That perspective makes you thoughtful about decisions. Ethan looked at her with something like wonder. I've learned more from you in 6 months than I've learned in my entire MBA program. It's different kinds of knowledge. You know, theory and strategy. I know what it's like to live on the edge. We need both. A professional relationship gradually evolved into something more, though both of them tried to fight it at first. Ethan was technically Olivia's boss, which created power dynamics they both recognized as problematic. And Olivia was wary of being seen as someone who had slept her way to a job rather than earned it through competence. But the connection was undeniable. Late nights working together turned into dinners where they talked about things beyond business. Shared challenges at work became shared confidences about their lives. The respect and admiration they felt for each other deepened into something that couldn't be easily categorized or dismissed. This is complicated, Ethan said one evening when they were reviewing budget projections, and he found himself more focused on Olivia than on the numbers. You work for me? There's an inherent power imbalance. I don't want you to feel pressured or uncomfortable. I don't feel pressured, Olivia said honestly. I feel conflicted because I care about you, but I also care about my professional reputation. I don't want anyone to think I earned my position through anything other than merit. Then we wait. We keep things professional until you've been here long enough that no one can question your competence. And then, if we both still feel this way, we can explore it. How long is long enough? A year, maybe? Long enough that you've proven yourself beyond any doubt. They tried to maintain strict professionalism, but the attraction was obvious to everyone in the office. The way Ethan's face lit up when Olivia walked into a meeting. The way Olivia's eyes softened when Ethan shared a small victory. The way they seemed to communicate without words, anticipating each other's thoughts and completing each other's sentences. Ethan's father returned from his extended retirement travels and came to visit the firm. Richard Drake was in his 70s, a distinguished man with silver hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He spent a day at the office, observing operations and talking to staff. At the end of the day, he sat down with Ethan in his office. Tell me what happened while I was gone. The truth. Ethan took a deep breath and explained everything. The overextension, the financial crisis, the layoffs, the desperate measures to save the company. Richard listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable. I'm sorry, Dad. I nearly destroyed what you spent 40 years building. I was arrogant and foolish, and good people paid the price for my mistakes. Richard was quiet for a long moment. Do you know why I retired and put you in charge? Because it was time. Because you trusted me. Because I knew you would make mistakes. And I knew you needed to make them while I was still around to help clean them up if necessary. Son, I made plenty of mistakes when I was building this firm. The difference is, I made them when the company was small enough that they didn't affect as many people. You made yours at scale, which made them more painful. But you did something I'm proud of. What's that? You took responsibility. You didn't blame market conditions or bad luck or anyone else. You looked at what happened, recognized your role in it, and you're working to fix it. That's the mark of real leadership. And this young woman, Olivia, the one I noticed you can't stop looking at, she seems to have helped you find perspective. She saved me, honestly. The night I made the layoffs, I was ready to give up on everything. She found me at my absolute lowest and showed me compassion I didn't deserve. Then I inadvertently cost her job, and instead of being bitter about it, she accepted my offer to join the company and has been instrumental in turning things around. You're in love with her. Is it that obvious? To everyone except perhaps her. Though I suspect she knows. Son, I'm going to give you some advice. Don't wait too long. Life is short and meaningful connections are rare. If you found someone who makes you better, who challenges you and supports you, who sees you at your worst and chooses to stay anyway, don't let professional concerns stop you from building something real. The people who matter will understand. 6 months later, on the 1-year anniversary of Olivia joining Meridian Architecture, Ethan asked her to dinner. Not a working dinner, but an actual date. They went to a small Italian restaurant, sat across from each other without laptops or project files between them, and finally addressed what had been building between them for months. I've been in love with you since the night you found me crying in my office, Ethan admitted. Maybe even before that. The first moment you sat down and talked to me like I was a person rather than a failure. Okay. I've been in love with you since you showed up at my new cleaning job to offer me an opportunity that changed my life, Olivia replied. Maybe before that, when I saw that the man having the worst night of his life was still capable of being devastated by how his choices affected others. So, where does that leave us? Together, if you're willing to be with someone who will constantly challenge you and call you out when you're being foolish. That's exactly who I want to be. With their relationship developed naturally from there. Professional partnership evolving into romantic partnership, built on mutual respect and genuine affection. They were careful to maintain appropriate boundaries at work, but everyone in the office could see they were a team in every sense of the word. Meridian Architecture slowly recovered and then thrived, rebuilt on a more sustainable model that balanced growth with responsibility. The company became known not just for excellent design, but for ethical business practices and treatment of employees. We learned something important from almost failing. Ethan would tell people at industry conferences, success that's built on cutting corners or exploiting people isn't real success. It's a house of cards waiting to collapse. Real success is sustainable, ethical, and creates value for everyone involved, not just shareholders. Olivia finished her bachelor's degree with Meridian's tuition support, then earned her MBA while working full-time. She eventually became Meridian's chief operating officer, the person who made sure the company's values aligned with his practices. On their wedding day, 3 years after that night in the dark office, Ethan stood before their gathered friends and family and told the story of how they met. I was at the absolute lowest point of my life. I had just destroyed something precious that had been entrusted to me. I was sitting alone in the dark, convinced I had ruined everything beyond repair. And then Olivia walked in, a cleaning woman I didn't know, and instead of walking away from my mess, she sat down with me in it. She showed me compassion when I deserved judgment. She offered me wisdom when I was drowning in despair. And she taught me something fundamental, that how we treat people in our worst moments reveals who we really are. He looked at Olivia, standing beside him in her simple but elegant wedding dress. What I didn't know that night was that I had just fired her, that my decisions had cost her job, that the woman showing me such kindness was one of the people I had harmed. And when I found out, when I tried to make it right by offering her a position at my company, she didn't do what many people would have done. She didn't just take the job and coast. She revolutionized how we operate, how we think, how we measure success. She made us better. She made me better. Olivia, in her vows, spoke about finding humanity in unexpected places. That night, I was supposed to clean an office. Instead, I found a person in pain who needed human connection more than he needed spotless floors. I didn't know he was a CEO. I didn't know he had just made decisions that would affect my life. I just saw someone suffering and chose to sit with him in it. And from that choice, from that moment of simple human compassion, we built something neither of us expected. A partnership, a company culture that values people over just profits. And a love that grew from the understanding that we're all doing our best with what we have, and sometimes we fail spectacularly. But those failures don't define us. What defines us is what we do next, whether we learn and grow and become better. Ethan taught me that second chances aren't about erasing mistakes, but about using them as foundations for better choices. And I hope I taught him that success means nothing if it's built on the suffering of others, but everything when it lifts people up. Years later, when Meridian Architecture was featured in business publications as a model for ethical, sustainable growth, journalists would ask about the turning point, the moment when everything changed. Ethan always gave the same answer. The turning point was when a cleaning woman found me at my worst and chose compassion over judgment. When she taught me that leadership isn't about never failing. It's about how you handle failure and who you become because of it. That night changed everything. Not because it was comfortable or easy, but because it was honest. And sometimes the hardest thing and the best thing are the same thing, Olivia would add. We found each other in the dark, literally and figuratively. And instead of staying in that darkness, we helped each other find the light. Not through grand gestures, but through simple human decency. Through seeing each other's full humanity. Through believing that people can change and grow and become better than they were. That's the real story. Not rags to riches or dramatic rescue. Just two imperfect people choosing each other and choosing to build something meaningful together. The night they met, in that dark office surrounded by the ruins of what Ethan thought he had destroyed. Neither of them could have imagined where that encounter would lead. A career built on compassion. A company saved and rebuilt on ethical foundations. A love that grew from mutual respect and shared values. All because a cleaning woman chose to sit with a stranger in his pain. And a broken CEO chose to see the humanity in someone society had trained him to overlook.